What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
And LeVon Maynard.
Hey, welcome to the show.
What is going on? So welcome to another great week, very diverse week. I won't spoil what we're going to talk about today, but I'll give you a little insight into tomorrow. We'll be talking about cyber attacks potentially intended to kill people. And then Wednesday, we have a very good discussion with Gabriel Davis from CISA, where we talk about a little bit about his background, as well as some CISA initiatives that are coming up in the near future. And then we even talk a little bit about, his show watching and study habits. So definitely tune into that Wednesday episode. And then Friday, of course, we talk about everything but cybersecurity. So if you want to hear about the sixth generation of video game consoles and our take on it, then definitely tune into Friday's episode. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right. So this article is from threatpost.com from Lisa Voss. It's titled Missouri vows to prosecute hacker who informed state about data leak, right? So the Missouri governor, Mike Parson, he actually launched a criminal investigation of a reporter. Now, this is a reporter, right, that works for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper, who found a security flaw that was listed online. Now, if you're not looking at this article from Threat Post, right, it has hacker in quotes, right? Because when I go into how they actually discovered this, you'll be like, that's not really hacking. At least that's my take on this, right? So what ended up happening was, excuse me, the Missouri Educational Agency site was displaying over 100,000 clearly visible Social Security numbers for school teachers, administrators, and counselors in the HTML source code. Now, to find the HTML source code for a website, all you need to do, depending on the browser that you're using, it's as easy as right-clicking and then just do view source data or something like that. I'm trying to think of what it says. Actually, hold on, I'll tell you what it says. Like view page source or something like that, or source code. Like that's the extent of it. So there was no tool used that was outside of using whatever browser was available to them or whatever. And this is how this reporter stumbled upon this, right? So the reporter actually went to the agency, right? The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, went to them and disclosed this to them, right? And then didn't even publish the story until after the pages were down. So it's not like this person was a hacker. They didn't ask for any money, you know what I mean, or anything like that. They just made the state aware, like, hey, you have this vulnerability out here. You guys may want to do something about this. And again, they waited for them to bring the page down before they published a story on it. But what's I don't like about this is that the governor now was trying to go after this reporter as a hacker, right? They're trying to call him a hacker and say that, hey, we're going to go after you now in a criminal investigation, and we're going to have you reimburse the taxpayers for the amount of money that they say went into trying to do incident response for this, right? Which honestly, and here's the amount: $50 million. They're saying it could be as much as $50 million that they're going to go after for this. And I'm like, you didn't have to spend $50 million to properly secure this website. You know what I mean? Like that, there's no way that much money was spent. So now it just seems like a vendetta because you got embarrassed. You know what I mean? But this is just this is somebody that was actually trying to do the right thing, because in this day and age, that's not what we see now, right? Like we do this show every week and we talk about all these different instances where someone is trying to financially financially get ahead on these different organizations and these different agencies. And this is one where the reporter was trying to do something that was right. Like, again, didn't ask for any money, just made them aware of it, didn't publish the story until it was already brought down. So this was just, I don't see why the governor thinks he needs to go after this reporter for this. But LeVon, what's your take on this, man?
This is some malarkey. That's what I have to say about that. No, you had a couple. Some malarkey. What the hell? No, this is like, it's kind of crazy what's going on here. I mean, obviously it's like the reporters just reporting on the facts. And I think it's kind of interesting though. It's like, I'll say this bottom line up front, like there's no reason this governor should be going after the journalists about, finding the source code or finding this data, the social security numbers in the source code for the website. It's like the fact that they actually reported it to the DESE, and then it wasn't until the site was shut down that they actually, put out the report in the newspaper, so that it wasn't like actually available to anybody else. So nobody knew about it while the site was up, so that it was not compromised in any way. So it's like they kind of cover their end in that respect as well. But besides that, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I wonder what the journalists, like, I wonder if they had like a security background of some sort, who would like randomly go into like the source code of a website just to see, like, I don't know, what can I see here? They must, unless they like kind of knew ahead of time, like, oh, I've seen this vulnerability before. Let me go and look at the source code, see if I can see some social security numbers here. So it seems like something that's a little bit more of a, maybe the journalist has a little bit more of a background than I know at this time. But I think it's kind of interesting that they were able to discover that information, because even I don't go into the source code on any websites really. I don't really try to find any kind of vulnerabilities, but it seems like something that like a what do you call it, like a white hat or a blue hat hacker might do, just to kind of verify security on your websites or your on some of your devices, your servers and things like that. But I just think that's kind of interesting. But nonetheless, going back to the original focal point of this article, just the fact the governor is trying to come after this journalist, just it's some shenanigans, it's some malarkey. Try to find some more old timey words I can think of to kind of categorize this, but I don't think there's anything of the there's no reason for it. I mean, I think if anything, the journalists should be like praised for like at least releasing that information to them ahead of time before some other hacker got access to it. And then I think the governor and his people would have been in even bigger trouble if the information got out to some ne'er-do-wells that may have used that information for some other nefarious purposes. So I think it's good on them to actually like let them know about it. The journalists for letting the governor and his people know about it at a time. And shame on this governor for for trying to strike back at this journalist just doing the job there. So I think that's all I have to say about that at the moment. But what you got on this, Ryan? You have some thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? I think it'll discourage people from disclosing things to the state or to the federal government when they do find something. So I think that can be bad, right? Because you do want to know that these vulnerabilities are out there coming from a person of good intentions. And again, maybe there's some background that we're not aware of. Maybe something was disclosed ahead of time or something like that for them to want to aggress on this journalist so hardcore. But even the Biden administration, when it was being stood up, had stuff in its source code as an advertisement looking for cyber for people in cyber, like if you can read this, then we're looking for you. Please fill out an application type situation, which I thought was pretty cool. Because I don't delve into source code either, but apparently people do. So that was the intent was for a very specific type person. Like, hey, we want you to sign up to work for the administration. So I think there's something there, but I think it's only going to harm people from coming out and saying something. And then I think it emboldens hackers, right? Because the hacker is like, oh, I'll show you what a hacker can do. You know what I mean? Like that's a challenge. You just send a message like, oh, we don't understand cyber, and we're mislabeling people. So now you're gonna have somebody who's a real hacker, like, okay, I'll show you what a hacker can do, and that's not good for anybody. What they should have done is they should have been aggressive against the person who built the website. Like that would be my go-to, right? Like, oh, this was not built properly. It was not safeguarded properly. We need to go back to them to either have them fix it or potentially have some kind of punitive actions against them or what have you. Accident is an accident, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say we need to sue everybody to oblivion or Tyson. What might I say? Oblivion? We need to sue somebody into non-existence. What we do need to make people accountable for their actions, right? So if you didn't secure this website properly, then we need to disclose who you are. Like, don't go to this person. give them a 1-star on Yelp for their web development skills, or just fix the problem, and don't be embarrassed by it. Like, oh, okay, well, now we learned something new. We'll make sure that none of our sites have this flaw again, type situation. So
Yeah,
again, I think it's just misplaced.
yeah, it should definitely lead to process improvement for sure, right? Like
Yeah,
it'll be one of those things where there's a different QC that needs to be done before a site goes live, you know, in the state.
right.
So yeah, that is just, I don't know. I can't see them thinking this was a good idea to go after them for this, because again, like the part that proves to me that they're not hackers, so to speak, is that they waited. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
they could have
Right.
published that story before they even brought anything down.
Yeah, and then that would have been a problem. Like, again, it's still First Amendment, right? Like, so you see it, you can say something, but it's like yelling fire in a movie, in a crowded theater. Like, the ramifications could have been bad, right? Because then somebody could have jumped on it, stole that data, and used it for nefarious reasons. Like, instead, they warned you, like, hey, we see something. They waited for you to take action, and then they disclosed it, because a story is a story at the end of the day. And they got bills to pay as well. So they're like, well, this might be, and it could, like you said, it could lead to process improvement, right? So like, you publish that and it gets out there, and then other local municipalities take action. Like, okay, we also had Bob Smith make our website. Let's check the source code. Like, oh, nothing but socials. That's what this guy does. He builds websites with exposed PII in it. So maybe we shouldn't hire him anymore, or her, or whomever. So but yeah, I thought it was an interesting story. Just the take that the state took on it was interesting to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
right there with
I
you.
think that
I
pretty.
think it's just and like circling back. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh,
I have a sync issue right now, so that's my fault.
yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, I see that. I think we're out of sync a little bit, but yeah, I was gonna just reiterate what you said. I think it's obviously the person that developed the site. I think they're potentially the skills maybe lacking a little bit, or maybe they were a little bit lazy. I don't want to put them too negative, but maybe they just weren't paying attention to some of the source code and stuff like that. It just seems like such a almost obvious thing that you wouldn't have the social security numbers like in the source code. I guess you imagine that the social security number should be like in some database somewhere that should relates to that connect to the database as opposed to being like in the code of the website. I don't know how they would let's just kind of stamp it into the source code. Or should require like some sort of query or something, I think. And I don't know enough about it as well. I haven't worked enough with websites, web development, but from my understanding, from my like a high level understanding, I feel like that's, shouldn't be like stamped into the source code at all. But that could be my inexperience with that. That's
So
yeah, sorry.
no. I'm sorry.
No,
More than likely, what they did was they pulled from a database that had all of their pertinent information in it. You know what I mean? And they were just pulling the wrong fields, is what ended up happening, right? They should have just been, so like this website probably had, maybe a teacher's photo and name, the grades that they taught, right? But the database has all this other stuff in it. So if anything, they should not have pulled from that database that had PII in it, right? Or created a separate one that just had whatever they needed. So then you can't make that mistake, right? If you're going to a database that doesn't even contain that information, you never have to run into this happening again.
Right.
They took the easy way and like, oh, you already have something. Let me tie into that. Don't worry. And they probably told him, don't worry. I'll only take what I need. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Watched it,
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm also very not knowledgeable on web development, right? I've made a couple HTML sites. I'm sure I never had PII on any of my websites, but I'm sure if I had some, I would have disclosed it. not knowing what I'm doing, but I don't have that type of responsibility, right? So you would hope that someone more skilled in that area would have caught this. But again, not to bash the development team or whomever made it. Like, mistakes happen. But in this case, I think the focus was on the wrong entity of where the problem is at. But I digress. So, but I think that pretty much wraps this episode. It's pretty short and to the point. Please leave us your feedback. Like, if you are a web developer, maybe you want to clue us in on what happened here, because the article doesn't really go too in depth with the problem. It just gives you the general oversight, right? but definitely hit up our websites and what have you and give us some feedback. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, LeVon. For all you listening on a regular basis, definitely tune in to this week's episodes. They're pretty fun. Definitely tune into Wednesday's episode with Gabe Davis from CISA. Really good time. A lot of really good information was disclosed in that one about his organization and what they're doing. Hit us up at the website www.theothersideofthefirewall.com. We get to all our social medias. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and TikTok. And you, LeVon?
You can hit me up on the Twitters at LeVon Maynard.
There it is. Stay safe, stay secure.
Take care.